opportunity to meet together. We ask that you would bless our discussions, help us to see the future, and plan accordingly. We thank you for all your blessings and your mercies to us, and we ask for assistance for those who are suffering in these difficult economic times. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. All right, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one
Nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The pledge goes better.
Roll call, Fred. Mr. Crouch, Mr. Darius, Mrs. Deal. Here. Mr. Erickson.
Here.
Mr. Sinkovitz. Here. Mr. Fenner. Here. All right. Any citizen comments, Fred, when you're in? No. We had none online. Okay. Let's go ahead and start with our guest from CVRT, and we'll go from there.
Great. Fred, do you want me to do the introduction here?
Fine. Yeah.
Okay. So yes, let's join me in welcoming Alan Dietrich Ward and Jim Stanton, fellow board members of the Cumberland Valley Rail Trail Council. We have had a conversation last year, preliminarily about interest in getting a rail car. And I think we wanted to begin picking it up again this year. The key consideration, of course, is finding financing, the funding for this. Funding was fairly thinly available last year and maybe as well this year, but we think we have a better chance to find funding to make this a reality. What we thought might be helpful, Alan and Jim, is to have just a conversation about some of the basics here that we need to be thinking about, including things like cost. What would be the build-out cost here? Alan, you talked a little bit. It's not just about the car, but it's about the security and the lighting and the access on a day-to-day basis. So there are probably a lot of elements that we haven't been thinking about, and we'd like to kind of start to get a sense of what those are about. Also talk about, how do we go about identifying and finding one? What would the sources be for that? And how long should we expect to be looking for something like this? They're probably not thick on the ground, but we need to have an understanding of how we can go try to find some of them. We talked a few minutes ago, just off record, a little bit about the right size rail car. And I think having seen the one in Shippensburg, if we do in fact want to put together a museum, we're going to need, I think, a full-size rail car, because something that's much smaller than that is just not going to give you the capacity to do the kind of things that really want to do to draw people in. So those are kind of some of the starting points. Is there anything that you Alan or Jim, you want to pick up on first there?
So I can talk for a minute. As I sort of noted, just in the preliminary chat, in some ways, I think it's good to get a sense of what you want to do. I mean, our Cumberland Valley Railroad Museum developed because we had the car and then we had to figure out what to do with it. And so our parameters were in many ways based upon the physical artifact. Here we're coming at it from a little bit of a different direction, which is somewhat similar, more similar to what the Conrail Historical Society is doing with their car, and that is they identified what they wanted to do and then found the car to do it in, or found the artifact to do it in. And so in this case, I think thinking about what it is that you would like to have in terms of like what program do you want to have this artifact serve? And then think about what the best framework for then achieving that goal might be. So, for example, if if you think that having a caboose is kind of the artifact that you want, and that but you also want to do more of a build out display like we have inside of our boxcar, well, then you could imagine imagine having the caboose being part of the site, and then either having a small building that you might deck out like a station, maybe attached to the comfort station there, or at another place on the site, as kind of another, as part of that site. Or you might have two cars, right? You might be able to, might connect the two. So thinking about what it is that you want from the site, we have an opportunity here to think about that in tandem with the kind of artifact that you might have. So in terms of the cost, for us, our total cost for ShipStation was about $100,000, something like that. It's not a complete apples to apples comparison, because we were also building a parking lot there, which you presumably wouldn't need to do if you're doing it at the Newville trailhead. But that's basically the cost that we had to move the car, to build the pad and the track, to renovate the exterior of the car, and then to build the deck, and then to build out the museum inside of the car. And the cost structure is going to be a little bit different here, because you have some assets at Newville Station that we didn't have. But then we also had a car that was a half a mile away from the site. And so presumably build in the cost of moving the car as part of the cost package for this. But that's about where we are. The Conrail car, the Conrail Historical Society's car, it was a little north of $100,000, because for two reasons. It's a bigger car, and the awesome commercial painter that painted the Cumberland Valley Railroad Museum car realized after he signed the contract that it was a bigger job than he anticipated, and so he made a correction for his quote for the Conrail car. But it's still, the trick that we found is that the cost of doing this is in some ways less of a deciding factor than the capacity to do it in terms of locating the craftspeople, the artisans, the skilled workers that actually have the ability to move the car, to build the track, and then to do the renovation. And one of the good things is that we now, once we get the Conrail car moved and redone, we've identified those things, and so we at least have a starting point now where we know that it can be done, and we know the kinds of people that can do it. And so there's a much more sort of transparent path to getting it done now than there was when we started 3 years ago.
Yeah, and that would be very helpful. So we don't have to reinvent the wheel here to know where those specific and arcane craftsmen are going to be.
That's right. Yeah, and that's the advantage we had with the Conrail Historical Society. It was it is a fraud process because there's so many. When you've identified the people that can do things and they're willing to do it. You still then have to figure out how you're going to do it. And for example, we had hoped to have the Conrail car moved, 6 or 7 months ago, but the world intervened, and so that has, that's pushed us back. But it is definitely a much less anxiety-producing process now that we kind of know how to do it.
Yeah. I think one of the things you mentioned before in regard to parking, we do have a parking lot, but I anticipate that if we put in an installation like you put in or anything like the one you did in Shippensville, we're probably going to need more parking. We may need to see if we can extend the easement along along the line there and maybe have a conversation about that at some point. And then, where did you, I mean, can you talk to us a little bit about how you found the funding for this?
I'm sorry, Jack, I didn't quite follow that.
This is tough, isn't it?
Well, Scott, we're getting really bad echo on our side. Might you turn the volume off on the TV and just let your laptop be the volume, or is the sound, or does that not work?
Is that any better?
That's perfect. Can you all hear us?
Yep.
So we have a delay instead of an echo, but it's better.
Yeah, but in terms of funding for this sort of project, can you give us some ideas about where you guys went and where you think we need to be talking?
Yes, and it's very simple. We internally funded the local match. The Rail Trail Council funded the match for the Cumberland Valley Railroad Museum. The Conrail Historical Society funded the match for their project, and the rest came from the CADIC.
From CADIC, is that what you said?
Yes, from the Convention and Visitors Bureau's Tourism Product Development,
Yeah.
which is, as you know, currently in Moortown.
Right. Okay. Others have some questions or comments for Alan or Jim?
I have a question. Jim would probably be the person suited for this. Dimensions of the car, length, width, and weight. Could you tell me what those items would be?
I don't have those numbers specifically handy right now, unfortunately, although they are literally stenciled on the side of the car, and I can pull up a photograph. Do you have those, Alan?
Okay, we'll the pictures around, we can go look.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that while we're talking.
Okay,
And
thank you.
the one nice thing about standard railroad cars are that they pretty much are the same width, and with the exception of two different car types, the standard 50-foot boxcar that is currently the museum has a standard height that works pretty well with trucking. There are boxcars that have an extended height, which is the Conrail car, and require a lot more transportation planning.
How do you go about identifying, where do you get the boxcar from? Would it be here at the yards in Enola, or where does it come from in terms of Borough having to ship it and deliver it?
That's the $64,000 question. Sometimes your situation is where somebody has a car and they need to get rid of it, and you are able to provide it a good home. That is often the case with cabooses. We've seen cabooses that are in the hands of a private owner. That owner passes, the property owner or the widow or the family is no longer interested in having the car, and they need it moved. And a lot of times you are paying a small fee or no fee, and your biggest fee is, of course, transportation. But of course, that car could be, in our case, 1 mile away, or it could be several states away.
Yeah, so the costs of transportation could be pretty formidable here.
Correct. And that is why a donated car is pretty much all we've ever looked at, because we need every available dollar for the build out, the transportation. That's where the costs really lie. And to add even the price of the scrap value of the car, several $1,000s on top of that, it's just it's not an extra cost that you really need in the project. But if you were looking to build this on a schedule and a specific timeline and a specific car type, it's a beggar's chooser situation. You may have to spend money to get something very specific you're looking for.
So one thing I think we're probably at this stage is like, organization, like how many people were in your committee? You know, did it grow? Did it shrink? You know, what did that structure look like to get the ball rolling on this?
So in terms of the Shippensburg Station Steering Committee for the Cumberland Valley Railroad Museum, we had about say 5 people, something like that. It evolved as we moved from building, and it evolved as we moved from rehabilitating the car to developing the museum itself. I would suggest that your committee be structured around who you think the principal organizations would be. So, I would say that's how I would put it. And in this case, obviously, perhaps the Cumberland Valley Rail Trail Council, Newville Borough, and then the historical organization, is going to be a key player. Obviously, they would want to be represented, I think, from the very outset. That would be how I would think about a team, but I think that it could vary based upon what your needs are.
The one thing that Alan did very well with the steering committee for the museum was he brought in folks with a variety of backgrounds. So you would think it would be obvious that somebody would have a municipal government background, a history background, a railroad or love of railroading background. But he went beyond that and brought in folks to really get a full spectrum of input from community stakeholders, people who would actually use the museum, who would visit it, who would use it for events. And that was awesome to be able to think of things beyond just the idea of a community museum and more of an event space from the very start of the planning.
And that allowed us to effectively make the case to KDIC that this wasn't just going to be a big paperweight that people would come and snap a picture of and leave. So that's, and I think that's, Jim's right, that's the key to this, is really selling this, not selling this, but conceptualizing this as a space that is going to fit multiple needs from multiple groups. That's a next, like the rail trail is. If you go out on the rail trail, there's all sorts of different people from different backgrounds that all use and love the trail and use and love it for different reasons. I think that's a key here, that we've been able to successfully be able to talk the language of economic development, be able to talk the language of outdoor recreation, be able to talk the language of history and heritage. So in that regard, I think, making sure that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to have a big team, but it does mean that you're going to want to have folks who have those, who are known and respected in those circles, and feel that, that can communicate effectively with those, within those groups.
What type of other events have you had at your facility other than just the museum?
So that's a great question. So the one thing I would say, just to bear in mind, is that the museum opened in April of 2019, and then the world changed. So the museum, we had political meet and greets there in the museum itself. At Shippensburg, we've had community parties. At Shippensburg Station, the museum is part of, and this is where I think you want to think about the museum. In my suggestion, you're going to want to think about the museum as part of the overall Newville Station complex. You've done a great job of building the playground there, having the comfort station there, of having the horse access there. Don't think about this as a standalone museum. Think about it as one component of a broader space. What the museum does for us is it provides a really cool backdrop and and an indoor space or that allows us to kind of do other things in the space around it. So we have our Ship First Fridays there. So the first Friday of the month, we have beer garden, trucks, and live music. In the space where the boxcar is, it's really kind of served as a focal point for thinking about the revitalization of downtown Shippensburg more fully. We had the Cumberland Valley Scottish Games, which would have been much bigger this year, but for the world changing there. We have our Trail Festival there, the Cumberland Valley Rail Trail Council's Trail Fest, which we do in partnership with the Shippensburg Historical Society. We have, of course, lots of races and other trail-oriented events that are there. And one of the really cool things, and this is really kind of what our dream of that space was, we wanted to build a space that we weren't going to have to be the ones to do stuff there, if you know what I mean. We really created a space so that, and made it very clear to others in the community that this was a community space, so that, despite having COVID, throughout this past fall, there were numerous community and campus groups that had, Shippensburg University had one of their a big orientation session there. A number of different groups had fundraisers from the Comfort Station and the museum, for their various animal-oriented and cancer-oriented and LGBT-oriented different groups on campus had their events there. So that was really just starting to ramp up, and then because the museum was only open for less than a year before it had to close. But we really envisioned this space, again, not as something that we were going to have to do all the programming for, but rather that it's something that the community would embrace and begin to see as their own and begin to schedule their own events there. Does that give you a big sense of our vision?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, any other questions for these guys? Jim, I know you're a big railroad man. Do you have names of people in the Newville area that would be interested in possibly serving as like the train experts on this committee?
Not to speak, I think Jim's willing to help out on the committee as well, if you'd like to.
I don't have any specific Newville or Newville area names, but the one thing that the Ship Station project has shown us that once you start on something, folks turn up.
They do.
Once they see an article in the paper, they all of a sudden self-identify, and we've been surprised that there were people who we've known for a long time, and we had no idea their passion for history and railroading until the projects started to appear.
Yeah, and that's really true. I mean, we sort of built the Cumberland Valley Railroad Museum with the expectation that, or with the hope that if we build it, they would come. If we build it right, that folks would come. And ever since, even before we opened, we've had folks, not just Shippensburg area folks, but folks throughout the Cumberland Valley who have donated things. We picked up a set of railroad signs from a farmer right outside of Newville, actually, whose sons had thrown these on the wagon when Conrail had invited local folks to come and pick up old railroad ties, and have just been sitting by his milk house for the last 30 years. Jim's absolutely right that if we put the pitch together correctly, I feel confident based on our experience at Shippensburg that there'll be some old railroad hands from Newville that'll appear.
Great.
Right.
Well,
Any other questions?
it's clear we have there's a lot of layers here as you look into this. Hoping as we move forward, we'll be able to lean on you, Jim, and you, Alan, to help us dig through some of these layers, find the right resources, try to avoid some mistakes. and hopefully get to a place where we can have something like the success that you've had.
You're already doing the first and most important thing, which is planning ahead. Both of our car projects, we operated on compressed timelines that were dictated more by the car was presented to us, and it was take it or leave it. And while so far so good, it would have been wonderful to have had more time to plan and be ready so that when a car became available, it was go time.
Yeah. Right. Well, if somebody drops another car on you, let us know.
Oh, absolutely. And that would be the situation where, you know, if you were able to have base funding and, for example, the space of land where you think you would want to have it, then once a car becomes available and you had at least like the base transportation money, you could bring the car to the site and then go forward from there. Like if it was a situation where you had to have a car and you have to have it now, there's nothing saying that you have to paint it the very next week. You have to have a museum in it in the next 6 months, so on and so forth.
And Jack, I think that's probably a good baseline. If you're looking for us to sort of say, for me, there's kind of two starting points. One is to start thinking about who has the interest and the ability to be on kind of be on the steering committee. And I know I'm eager. I'd like to know from the Newville Historical Society what kind of railroad artifacts you have, or are already in the collection that we can start thinking about. What would it take, and what would it look like to incorporate these into a site design? And then the second thing that I would say, just to echo what Jim said, and that is CADIC is going to, before CADIC is not going to give, I don't think CADIC is going to give exploratory money. You're really going to have to, I'd say probably the model that you're thinking about is putting together some base funds to be able to move the car when it's available, and and have kind of have that as already done before you think about applying to CADIC funds. Now, the Conrail Historical Society is fortunate in that they were able to get their car moved to a railroad siding next to at Letterkenny, and have it stored for free because they're the Conrail Historical Society. We had to move the car. To the site and demonstrate that we could get the car there, and that we had a site for it before we could even apply for the funding from CADIC. And so my sense would be that may be a more likely scenario for you all than what the Conrail Historical Society was able to do with theirs. I mean, who knows? I mean, it may be able to work out, right? But my sense is that you're probably going to want to have money on hand that you can use to move the car and to build the pad, or at least to store the car, before even thinking about, have that up front so that when a car is available, and trust me, when you start moving in these railroad nerd circles, cars come around, they can. But as Jim noted, when CSX or someone else decides that they want to get rid of a car, it's not next week, next month, or next year, it's tomorrow. And even in this scenario, I think Jim told you, by the time Conrail Historical Society said yes, they would take the car, CSX had already. So that's sort of what happens. And so I think putting together a grub stake in that regard, as well as putting together a definition of what you might like in basic terms, that's the starting point, I would say, for the next couple months.
Yeah. That's very helpful. Yeah. So we just need to get the earnest money together and be ready to move.
Is there any plans for fundraising? Is there any plans to do any fundraising?
I don't think we have any plans of any sort at the moment. And that's why we're talking now. But that sounds like one of the things we might want to be thinking about, Bob.
Right.
All right, any other questions for these guys? Otherwise, we'll let them let them go.
Well, thank you, Jim, and thank you, Alan. It was really helpful.
Our pleasure. We're excited about the vision. Newville's really doing some exciting and innovative things. We're delighted. On behalf of the Cumberland Valley Rail Trail Council, we're delighted in helping any way that we can, and we're super excited. We've heard about the news of some of the industrial development that you're able to do along the rail trail, and we're super excited to see what the future is going to bring.
Thank you very much for thinking of us and thinking of this project. It really does make this entire run of the trail a destination for folks when there are multiple places that they go, multiple communities to experience, and I look forward to helping you as it goes forward.
Yeah, that's our hope too. Thank you, Jim.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Enjoy your night.
Happy New Year. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving into legal matters. Marcus, number one, revised rules, regulations for the Newville Police Civil Service Commission.
It's my understanding that the chief has done extensive work on this based on a seminar he attended. So it'd be appropriate, I think, at this point to authorize the advertising of it for adoption at the end of the month.
Any questions, anybody? It should have been in your packet. It was highlighted in pink and.
Just a couple of editorial things. Under the definitions, got furlough and examination are in there twice. And then under paid administrative leave, it says a period of time where police officers directed by the township. It should be say borough.
What page is that on, like?
Page 2.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, so I guess we're looking for a motion to advertise for the next meeting. Been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Item number 2, resolution for the 2021 tax revenue anticipation note from Mid-Penn Bank.
We've got an excellent proposal from Mid-Penn Bank. The interest rate is less than 2%, Fred. Am I right about that?
1.58, very good.
So that's one of the best rates we've seen. And if we pass the resolution tonight, we'll be pretty much set with notifying the appropriate state agency and getting the loan settlement set.
Any questions?
It's a great rate.
All right. You don't need anything from this, right? You don't need it.
We need to approve.
We need to approve it.
So we can move forward.
All right, so we need a motion to approve resolution 2021-01.
So moved.
Been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Marcus, I think we were looking for an update on the police pension and the non-uniform pension ordinances.
And I think we're close to getting those ready to adopt. We just needed some input on the pension from our expert. And we should be good to go with that, aren't we, Fred?
Yes. Anything you have, Doug, should turn around quickly. Doug Worley.
So we'll contact Doug and send those. And do you think we could get authorization tonight to advertise it? If we get Doug's input, Fred?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Then you can authorize the advertising of that ordinance too.
This will be ordinance 2021-1, correct?
2.
It would have to be 2, because one is the one we just approved for the commission.
All right, do we have a motion to advertise? It's been moved, do we have a second? Second. Been seconded, any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Any update on the liquor, where we're at with the liquor, ballot question?
I'll send the ballot question in this week, but we need people who are willing to get the petition circulated.
I think I have 4. That's plenty.
Scott, was that you speaking?
Yes, that was me. I have 4 people who said they were willing to circulate it.
Do we need more?
Over the weekend, the mayor and I received an email from a local business owner, prominent business owner who has expressed an interest in a microbrewery here in the borough.
Wow.
And they're very much interested. They have the expertise, and they have access to equipment. So they were very happy to hear that Borough Council is pursuing this ballot question.
Based on past conversations I've had, I'm sure I have at least 2 more people who would circulate the petition as well.
Okay. It doesn't hurt, I mean, as many as we can get.
Exactly.
We will need to do some kind of little training with those people who are circulating, so that way they're all sharing the same information. They all understand, you know, what this is about, and they understand the rules of who can sign and who can't sign. And I think the petition period is February, I want to say beginning of February to the beginning of March. It's like 3 weeks. It's not very long. So, and it could also be where you have a couple days here in the office, people just come in and sign if they want to just come in.
So Scott, do you have a plan to pull people together for that kind of training?
I mean, I don't have a problem pulling them together and doing it.
Yeah.
If anybody else wants to join in on it, that's fine too.
Well, I'd be willing to help out. I don't know anything about it. If I can be of some help, I'd be willing to do
We should
it.
develop a fact sheet
Right.
of how how they would approach the resident, what they should ask for, and how they should go about explaining it. And everybody should receive that so that there's clarity. And then the people can just go out, we can have the petitions prepared. And I think a lot of this, Marcus, will come from the Election Bureau. They'll give us some guidelines on this, I'm sure.
All right, I'll ask them for whatever they have that way.
Probably would be bad to have a fact sheet that they can give to
Yes,
people.
right, yeah.
People, some people are going to say, well, I want to think about it.
Yeah, well, and there's an article that was in your meeting package from the Boroughs Association about various forms of microbreweries and wineries and so forth. We can include that information. Not a lengthy article, but it's pretty informative.
I think your idea, Scott, about, getting a training session together would be a good one. Everybody on the same message, build all team spirit there.
I have a question. Since the drinking age is 21, can people under age 18 to 21, can they still sign the petition?
Yeah.
Okay. Just
You
curious.
can be 18 and be a bartender.
Well, I know, I just asked.
Yeah, the only rules regarding signing is you have to be a registered elector in the borough. So it can't just be anybody in the borough. They have to be registered. It doesn't matter. A Democrat can get Republican signatures, that kind of stuff. That doesn't matter. But, yeah.
Fred, what's the number we need?
155.
Oh, gee, that's big hard.
Let me know if I can help.
Anything else from Marcus?
Marcus, you hear anything about the 501c3?
We're hoping to hear something this week.
That'd be good. Yeah, that'll help us to start doing some funding outreach.
What about the two landlord situations?
That's on my list.
Okay. Anything else? Administration, Michael?
I've got one person who's interested in serving on the planning commission, the two that I plan to talk to. Mr. James Franklin up here on Parsons Street is interested in serving. The other party, the man of the house schedule doesn't work with work, and she just felt like she had her hands too full. They're interested in helping the borough, but didn't think that this was the way they could do it. So she may be interested in helping out with activities this summer. Where do they live? In Carl. Oh, okay, yeah, sure. Okay. I can't do anything. Yeah, her mother's on the news.
Along those lines, Vince Milan sent his resignation from zoning hearing board
No,
Monday.
Jason.
Jason, yeah, not Vince. I know Vince Milan too. But with interest in the planning commission as well. So I think we should be able to take action on that at the end of the month. Does that sound good?
Yeah, Mike, I didn't hear the name of the first person that you mentioned.
James Franklin.
James
Same
Franklin.
as the Penn State coach. He said just not the same money.
Did you talk to the people that live in Mr. Hubbott's home?
Yeah.
That's not who you were talking
Yeah.
about? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, they're
They're interested, I know. When I took her money around to her gift card for the decoration, she said that they'd like to get involved.
All right.
So,
Go ahead,
Scott,
Go
What
ahead,
happened?
Jack.
what happens with those names? Do they go to Lucy, or what's the process?
Mike had started the interview, so it'll be up to Mike to make recommendations.
My administration will interview, and it'll be up to him to make, or that committee to make recommendations to council.
It'll be up to whom?
The admin committee will make a recommendation
Okay,
to council. Okay. And council will vote.
okay.
It also, Fred has down here that we have a meeting with Southampton Township on, for the purpose of trash and recycling contract, January 11th. Does that say 11th? through 12?
The 11th or the 12th.
Or the 12th.
At 5 PM.
Okay. And, so I think Fred sent that email this morning to everybody to review the contract, but I don't think they want everybody from council necessarily to attend.
You can't.
You can if you want, but it's not.
It's not, we won't make a decision, but Mr. Mack, who is Scott Mack from Southampton Township, he will be meeting with they will be finalizing the contract on Friday. So Newville will be the first municipality that will get information. What he will be doing is answering questions for council in terms of what will the cost be of the new program? Will we be issuing new containers? Will there be new recycling containers? He'll have a lot of answers so that you can vote on the contract at the January 26th meeting. He's agreed to do this by Zoom so that we could, and would probably be about half an hour, 45 minutes at most. It's just an informational meeting, no votes to be taken.
And are we looking for,
We just need to pick a date and time.
I actually think I have something on 12.
Either of those can work for me, so.
Yeah, I'm booked at 12 at 5.
That's gonna be in Zoom, Fred?
Yes,
In here or in our house?
you can stay right at home. Monday
works for me.
That works for me too.
Scott, it's really hard for the Zoom people to hear your voices.
Monday the 11th at 5 o'clock. Does that work for others if they want to join?
Do what, Scott?
To join in on the Zoom meeting with Scott Mack from Southampton Township.
Okay.
About the trash, contract.
Yeah, sorry, it's just kind of old.
Okay. You want to communicate that to him?
I'll send it out an email to everyone.
Another item is resolution 2021-03. And this is to adopt the county hazard mitigation plan for 2020. Fred emailed this. Did you email it to everybody, Fred? Went out to everybody earlier today, I believe.
I was gonna say, I didn't see that.
That went out this morning, pretty lengthy, maybe it
Yeah.
did, maybe
It's a book. It's 75 pages.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I didn't get that.
check your.
I think it's almost 300 pages.
Yeah, your settings might be that some people can't receive it, so if you don't have it, let me know.
Can we hold off till the end of the month?
We don't have to do it tonight.
Okay.
All right. It's not showing up.
What I'll do is I'll dump it into a drive and I'll send the link to everybody, and then you can, that way it doesn't need to.
Yeah, that's how
We'll do that.
Thank you.
All right, anything else for admin?
No, I don't have anything more.
Okay, economic development.
Yeah, just a couple little things. On the advisory committee, we have 6 members now. They're committed. The last member that committed was Jody Roberts. She's a long-term renter here in the district, in the borough. So we still have 2 or 3 to go. We've got some calls out and hoping to wrap this up soon. I've been talking to Joe Isaac about meeting with the EDA on January 20th. He's enthusiastic about it. I think it'll be a good idea for him to let the EDA know what he's bringing to town and how we can work together. I'm sure there's some synergy there that would be really important to try to encourage. And the only other thing I have at the moment is that Chris is going to update all of us at the February public work session on the work of the EDA. So it'll be a chance to hear directly from him about strategy, progress, take questions, get ideas about projects. But he's looking forward to doing that as well. That's about it.
Okay, any questions for Jack?
So I just add that, Jack, today I did deliver to Andrea the resolution and the documents from AC&B. We're in the process of getting everyone signed to open up the account.
Great.
So we have everything in motion.
Terrific. Thank you, Fred.
Okay, Parks and Rec.
Nothing.
Who wants, I mean, are we in agreement that we want to go down this road with the railroad? No pun intended. I mean, we need somebody to point it up to get the committee together and get that ball rolling. So, who's interested? I mean, Lee?
Yeah, it's gonna be a while. I won't have time to do it myself.
Okay.
I would like to help with it.
You want to help with it? Okay.
Who's talking?
You want to take the lead on it?
No, I'm
Right.
not.
Oh, I'm looking for somebody to take the lead on it.
Yeah.
Or look for somebody who'd be willing to take the lead. I mean, it sounds like we've got 1, 2, 3. I would imagine Jack probably as well, 4.
Jim McNally, I'm sure won't want to take the lead at this point, but he'd probably be interested in giving input, and he may have some good recommendations for somebody who would take the lead.
Right.
Right. You know, I was thinking about even somebody over at Green Ridge,
Yeah,
was
their
thinking
train
about
museum.
with their trains over there,
Yeah.
you know.
Somebody from the Historical Society should be a part of it. And obviously Alan and Jim, they both are interested as well.
I'll talk to Mr. McNally and see if he has any recommendations.
I'll talk to Don Flagel and I'll talk to the director over at Green Ridge, see if the guys from the museum want to help from the hobby.
Who is that, Fred? Who's the director?
Hope Manning.
Oh, okay.
Hope will get us something.
All right. So, bunch of Indians, but not a whole lot of chiefs yet, so we'll get it figured out.
I don't know the first thing about railroads, so.
I don't need to. All he knows how to organize.
How to organize people, yeah, let the experts do what they do best. Any update on the spray pond or the water feature for down the park?
I've got the estimate and the next round of funding won't open until the spring at DC and on it.
Okay, so this spring is when
We have everything. We've got the site plan, we've got the cost estimate, we have everything.
Good.
You know, for the amount of that, I was going to talk to Mary and see if maybe they might have some money left over from a previous year's CD, because we only need 40 grand. It's not a big. So I'm gonna look at that too.
Okay. Anything else for Parks and Rec? All right, public safety.
I thought the borough people did a great job with the snow removal. All went smooth. That would have been a safety issue, possible safety issue. I don't have anything else to say.
All right, so I see on here that it says discuss a request from Chief Todd Kozier to conduct a fundraiser for the police department K-9 program. I believe he sent us an email with markup for shirts that they would like to sell for K-9 Lock.
Shirts, hats, and jackets.
Shirts, hats, and jackets, yeah. Does anybody have an issue with that?
I don't have an issue with it. I think it's a good idea.
All right, well, let's make it official.
I make a motion that we allow the police department to have a fundraiser to sell shirts, hats, and looks like hoodies for K9 Lock.
Been moved. Do we have a second?
Second.
It's been seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. We also have a request from Sean Gutschall to cash out 40 hours of his 2020 vacation time, and then he would carry another 40 hours over to 2021. We should move on that.
And that'll be for payroll on Monday.
You want a motion?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we pay Sean Gutschall 40 hours of his vacation time, and that'll allow him to have 1 week of carryover vacation time.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Anything else for public safety?
Mr. Darius, when I was talking to the Greens about the planning commission serving there, they did talk to me as well, and I recommended they get in touch with you, but that they are concerned and would like the borough to look into installing a mirror in the alley behind their house, because they said traffic comes down there. I guess there's a little bit of a blind corner where the Y's or something, and they said when they're pulling out, they can't always see if cars coming, and also children play down there, and people wouldn't be able to see them before they made the turn. So they just made that recommendation and asked that the borough look into it.
Is that the borough's responsibility to put a mirror on?
This would be on the side of the old Pond View building. What their problem is they pull out of the garage. And if you're coming up Big Spring Ave and you make that turn on to Liberty, they're pulling out and you've got somebody pulling in, and they have a concern. This was brought before council once before, and it was declined because we've had requests for mirrors in the past. The one that we declined on Vine Street, we would not put up because it was a state highway. But this is a borough street, so it's a little different. But if you've driven up 641, you get to the top of Cemetery Hill. Jack Hunter has one for the same problem. The neighbor across the street, when they pull out, they can't see who's coming up the hill, so they have a mirror there. It's the same thing.
And they actually first mentioned about the children, not their children. They said we keep ours in the yard, but there's some other neighborhood children play in that alley, and they're concerned about that. And then she said we can't see them pull out of the garage either. But so that was their concern.
Bob, if you want to get together one day, I can take you up and show you right where it is.
Did you mention my name? We have a similar issue behind 20 Fairfield Street. That family has 6 little children, and people pull in that alley quickly. And I'm afraid one day that one of the children could get hurt. I think we might need a sign to slow down children at play or something.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that's our responsibility or whether the people that live there would do it, and whether they need our permission to do it.
Well, we could take a look at both locations, and then what we should do is refer them to the chief, get some input from the chief before we bring it back to council for a vote.
Great idea.
All right, anything else, public safety? All right, quality of life.
Okay, quality of life. Well, first of all, our December was really busy, and we did the house decorating contest, which was kind of fun. We got to drive all over Newville and look at their porches, and we did, and we did have 3 winners. And they were all very appreciative. I did personally go and drop the gift cards off. So I was able to meet them. So now we just need to think of things for the rest of the winter to do. But one of the things that I want to bring up tonight is WEMA had a 93 Ford Aerostar van that they were looking possibly to get rid of. And it's one that, you know, I guess was kind of donated to them. And then Tim Wolf used it when he was our zoning officer. And we thought maybe it would be nice if WEMA would donate it to the launch pad. Because as you remember the other month when the ladies from Launchpad spoke to us, they were talking about, you know, needing things for these gentlemen to do. So we thought, you know, maybe the van would be something they could work on, something that they could learn how to drive with, and just a good used vehicle that's not going to cost them a whole lot, hopefully, and it'll give them something to use. So we just need to think about if that would be a idea to, or an option to use this Ford Aerostar van for.
Is that a motion?
Yes, that's a motion.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, say no. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
That's all I have at this point.
Okay? Fred, you look like you want to say something.
I guess we're up to old business, and I just want to report to council that you had approved a letter to the Tri-County Planning Commission, and the borough had submitted two projects, the traffic signal project and the South High Street Streetscape project. They combined have a total of over $800,000. And I did receive today an email from Tri-County that the projects were accepted and they're now put in place to be funded. So now we wait. So
Excellent.
90% of the battle is getting on the list.
Very good.
So we're on the list.
Is there a time frame? Like how long do we wait?
Well, you have until 2045.
Oh.
Most of these, you know, it's within 5 to 7 years.
Okay.
Great work, Fred.
Oh, that's good though.
And these are ready to go.
Yeah.
These are ready to go.
What do you mean by ready to go?
Meaning that we've got all the design work.
Oh, okay, all right.
We've got the cost estimates. We could implement them quickly. And that's what they look for. And especially now, if, you know, the new presidential administration, there's a public works bill for highways and things like that, funding will be available for this. You can't fund these state projects unless you're on the state list. You can try all you want, you can write to congressmen, you can do, but unless they're on the long-term plan, you won't get the funding. So that's why I said 90% of the battle is getting on the plan, and you're on. Now you hope for the money.
Very good. That's exciting. Any other old business?
Is there anything new happening with Ship Daddy? Did, you know,
Chip Daddy closed on the property last week, and we did get a request to change all the water and sewer billing over into their name as of January 1st. And Jack is working on having him at the next EDA meeting to meet the members of the EDA board. So things are going along. They are interested in hiring some people, I understand. So things are moving along.
I had a report that somebody was in there working in the building, so.
I had a call from the roofer who did our roof, ended up getting the job to do their roof and some painting and coatings. So he called us to thank for the referral. He said he ended up getting a good job out of it. So they are moving ahead with improvements.
that's good. That's real good.
Any other new business? Future agenda items, I think Jack mentioned that, that Chris will be here at the next work session in February. Anything else for the January agenda? Mr. Mayor, you've been pretty quiet.
I've had difficulty hearing. I've had to have my volume turned up almost as high as it'll go. And I'm getting feedback every time somebody else says something. So I just decided to be quiet.
Is that all it takes?
Yes. You should try it all the time.
Scott, is that a
That doesn't help either.
Scott, is that a
All
fixable
right,
problem?
anything else?
It's very hard to hear the people. It was hard to hear Fred. It was hard to hear anybody on that side of the table.
I agree.
Can these problems be fixed? I mean, why are we getting all this feedback? And
You're getting the feedback because we have to have the volume on the TV and it's feeding into the microphone on the computer.
and there's no way to fix that.
I'm gonna have to put somebody in charge of looking into that.
Yeah, because this is a tough way to hold a meeting.
Yes, it is.
Anything else? Okay. Waiting on you.
I make a motion to adjourn.
All those in favor say aye. Motion carries. Have a good night.
Good night.
All right.
Okay.
A camera, this camera that we bought was an expensive camera. Everybody has a hard time getting it